Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another speaker series for the Peace Corps Virtual Internship Program. Today's guest is Luther Jeke. He is a fellow in the Atlas Corps program. So he's originally from Liberia, but he's got a great background in international development and in technology for development. And he spent the last year working here in DC at Creative Associate. And he'll tell you more about his background and also about particularly mapping initiatives he's worked on. All right, Luther.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to having a great interaction with you all today. Let me share my screen quickly so we can move into the actual presentation. Okay. Share screen. Okay. So. All right. So as Kristen said, my name is Luther Jeke from Liberia. I'm currently on the U.S. State Department funded Atlas Corps Fellowship, which basically brings emerging nonprofit leaders from across the globe to come to the U.S. and get to learn more about nonprofit and organizational management, and also get to work full time at on international development or nonprofit institutions, and then return back to your country to contribute to the development of your country. So mostly we are from the developing countries in Africa and other continents as well. So Liberia, I guess a lot of you have heard about this tiny country on the west coast of Africa. So basically, these are things that are run through. I look at us having we live behind time, but basically for us to look at about 20 minutes to go through some of these things. So I will skip through them very fast, and then I'll share the slide with Kirsten, and then she can be able to share with some of you, and then I'll also give my contacts so you can follow up just in case you need more details on some of these things. All right, so briefly we'll go through how, from my personal experience, how I have worked with several organizations in the past and currently to leverage mapping technology and other ICT for development or to create social change in the developing world. So Liberia is a tiny country on the west coast of Africa, as you see on the map in the red color, founded back in 1821 by the free slaves who came from America. It's a very small country, has 4.5 million people there. We have 16 tribes, and also we just got back from fighting 14 years of civil war that took away the lives of almost 250,000 people. So now the country is actually rebuilding, but the challenges are really enormous, and we like to highlight that as well. So if you read the stars on Liberia in recent time, the Human Development Index, the corruption ranking, failed state index, freedom in the world, ICT penetration. I would say bluntly that none of these are really impressive, as from my view or from the view of others as well. Access to technology, lack of formal institutions that are offering degree in ICT courses or career, the cost of electricity, weak institutions, the intricacies or the challenges with working with government agencies are all, challenges that I cannot underemphasize. But something strange happened to me personally. Prior to 2011, I've also worked with a bunch of other ICT institutions. I work with a bank, I work with high schools, teaching computers, doing, ICT consultancy and so forth. But 2011, I came in touch with, the Ushahidi team that had just come to Liberia to work with the National Elections Commission, all the global partners to, monitor the Liberia 2011 elections and also build the Liberia early warning and early response network, and also we'll move on to do all the interesting things with, mapping technologies and ICTs in Liberia as well. So that's how Ushahidi Liberia came about. They work a lot with the National Elections Commission and other national partners to deploy the technology to monitor the elections and also empower local observer groups to be able to collect the relevant information, on voting fraud and logistic issues and everything around voter registration to the actual voting to campaigning and everything else. And then doing the work of the Ushahidi, that's when the Innovation Lab was funded the same year in Liberia as well. You can check both websites. And we did really interesting work, with not just supporting those agencies to do the mapping and data collection, but also we opened up the lab, as you can see in the images, and then we started to offer, ICT courses to these young Liberians who have just come from fighting war for 14 years. Some of them were born into the war era. So how do you give them the relevant skills to help them to be self-sustainable and also contribute to society as well? So that's how we started. There's a video here that shows a bit about the lab. I don't know, it's like 3-4 minutes. Not sure we have a lot of time, but it basically shows you how the lab started and some of the interesting things we've done. So I'll probably just play it just 1 minute, and then I will stop the video, and then you have the slide and the link. You can go on to watch the video as well. Open so. Just want to open. All right, so why the videos opening? Let me see. Oh, it's an error. All right, so but the video is actually on YouTube. So I will send the link. It seems like my computer is not allowing me to. Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely share that link.
Yeah. So yeah, great. So the video should give you some view of what exactly the lab is. So with Ushahidi being that organization that started, the mapping and digital data collection in Liberia, and then the funding of the lab by the Ushahidi staff to kind of support ICT and innovation in Liberia. We believe that ICT can transform Liberia in a huge way, can support the development agenda of the government and other international institutions who have interest in Liberia. Right now the statistics shows that, about 42% of Liberians have smartphone, but the internet penetration is very low, which is rising very fast. But, with the arrival of the transatlantic ACE fiber optic cable, the industry is growing. So on a rapid phase. But basically, what is Ushahidi? You've heard me say this word over and over. So Ushahidi is the Swahili word for testimony. So this actually started back in 2008 in Kenya, when there was this huge post-election violence where people were killed, there was rioting, people's properties were destroyed. So a bunch of technologists and humanitarian workers got together and put their ideas together and developed a technology that could help citizens to actually generate information that will be relevant to their own safety. So basically, it's a workflow that works in this way. How do you empower citizens to use SMS to use email, to use, whatever minimum way they could use simple technology to be able to gather data that comes to a centralized platform that go through a workflow that can be, verified and approved and then be analyzed and also disseminated to the rightful agencies in terms of maybe it's the police, the immigration, the riot group, the Ministry of Gender. So whatever setting you're using that in, how can you empower citizens to use common SMS to be able to send the right information that affect their community so that the right people can use the information to take action. So the Ushahidi goes through this workflow. In 2011, we worked with over um, 30 different civil society organizations and also AFES, which is the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, and then the National Elections Commission, other stakeholders in the Liberian National Elections Commission entire coalition, because the country has just come from war. This election was very crucial. So we felt that how can we use this technology, go through series of processes, trainings for these partner organizations who have actually, they have like their local employees or staff in every single district in Liberia. So these organizations, we could empower and train these local, staff of these organizations from various districts that could actually collect relevant information through a specified process. We had a short code attached to the system for SMS that they could send, and they were trained how to send those messages. So they collected the information, sent it, anything ranging from polling station to police action to security issues, whatever, they could send the information through this short code, just 2011, through whatever mobile network we had the interaction. We built the relationship with all those mobile networks. So these messages were actually coming in free of charge. Although we're paying something called reverse charge. And then we're able to map all of the polling stations as well to show exactly which counties have which polling stations and so forth. So, great. So with that, we also work with the Liberia Peacebuilding Office and the United Nations Mission in Liberia to set up another Ushahidi portal or system for them where, these folks could actually report incidents of, natural disaster, land dispute, border issues, and so forth. Because especially with land dispute and disease outbreak and other things, as you see here, land dispute has a huge number here because these the Liberia Early Warning Early Response Network was tracking land dispute to a huge extent because during the 14 years of civil war, a lot of people fled from Liberia and went into exile, into the Ivory Coast, into Ghana, into Guinea and other surrounding countries. These people stay out for 20 years, and most of them are returning to the country. But then you realize that there were people who stay in the country during those 20 years, and they've occupied most of those lands and built permanent structures and businesses there. And then these people are coming back and they're claiming their land as well. So land dispute right now in Liberia is one of the huge drivers of conflict. So how can we collect the relevant information to disseminate that to relevant government agencies that could intervene in some of these issues, because it's a huge driver of conflict. And then the system, we could use it to make sense of the data, generate weekly what we call incident report or severity ranking, how serious the issue is. We had different color coding to represent the severity of the issue, and then we create a monthly report, annual report, based on which counties these reports were coming from, which were the top talk about teams and all of that. So this system allowed us to really make sense of the data, to understand what all of these messages and reports that were coming into the system, what stories they were actually trying to tell. And then lastly, before I left Liberia, I was involved with the iLab as well. and we supported the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare in along with other partners like the CDC, WHO, and so forth. They had many systems, but this was we deployed an Ushahidi instance for them to track several issues around the Ebola crisis. So basically, as you see in the screenshot, we were collecting, incidences that were going to support eventually the contact tracing, so that they were going to support the medical supplies coordination, so that people can know exactly where the cases were coming from, um, which cases were confirmed, probable, and suspected, to know where the medical facilities were located, for example, where the Ebola treatment units were located. The more you visualize these things on the map, you get to understand, where the beneficiaries of your, target group or whatever is, and also where the resources are. So it was used to help them to coordinate medication, to coordinate the Ebola treatment units, health centers, and all of that as well. And then recently, while in Washington, D.C., I'm also working with the Technology for Development Unit. And one of the key things I'm focused on is I'm kind of helping creative to pull a lot of geospatial thinking into their work. So basically, from last year, January, till now, I've been helping the team to build this application called Creative Mapper, which is basically a collection of tools, technology, and processes and training, for geospatial data collection, analysis, visualization, and programmatic use. So Creative is looking at how they can deploy. Creative Associates is a huge international development firm that's been around for, the last 40 years, based in DC. They have projects in 80 different countries around the world, about 1,000 employees worldwide. So they're doing a lot of development work in crisis regions, in developing countries, in education, health, and so forth. So how do we use geospatial technology to collect the relevant information that will display the relevant information and help them to make the relevant decisions as it relates to those projects? So so I'm working with them to work on most of these things. And then, when it comes to the value added in Liberia, there are a lot of barriers that we overcome as we approach, the data collection needs of the organizations that we work with in Liberia. And a lot of challenges, and then looking at the value in Liberia, what we normally say is he who has the information has the power. So there's this culture of lack of information sharing in Liberia, and that is true for other countries as well. So how could we work with individuals, work with entities to make sure that they understand what are the values of information sharing? We know that there are limits. We know that, there's certain information that are intended to be internal, but how can we encourage organizations to understand the need to share the relevant information, collect the relevant information, share with partners so that we improve the system? So, we were able to overcome a lot of those challenges by training, by engagement, by continuous, training for those relevant people in those organizations. So we work with a lot of organizations over the course of the 5 years, and that is still continuing even while I'm away, refining the consistency of reporting. How do you specify the various information coming into the system, gathering feedback from the users of the platform, and also helping to incorporate those feedback into newer versions of the platform as well. So there, as it goes to Ushahidi has been used in a lot of different countries around the world. Like, for example, the 2010 Haiti earthquake, the tsunami, the Arab Spring, and a lot of different countries to help different groups to collect relevant information using location data and also other metadata to collect the relevant information to help organizations to visualize, analyze, and also make better decisions. So I've talked about a lot of things. I know this is a lot of information, but basically, this presentation is not suggesting like the sources of a particular tool or tech hub, but rather we're looking at how, you can facilitate cross-sectoral dialogue and collaboration and action around, citizen engagement, around data collection, around location data in post-conflict areas, that will help not just the traditional method of collecting data, but moving from paper-based to digital data, and also not just having the people to collect the data, but supporting them with additional trainings and engagement, and helping them through the process to make sense of whatever they're collecting as well. So before we get to the question stage, I mean, Ushahidi was funded back in 2008, and it has been replicated. The model has been replicated in several countries across the world and used for different purposes, for healthcare, for education, for citizen engagement, for governance, and you can name the rest. So, what I would like to leave you all with is that, you know, this general terminology called GIS, which is Geographic Information System. Whether you are, a Peace Corps intern, a Peace Corps volunteer, there are a bunch of free and open source GIS systems out there, which is basically free of charge. You can download and use. I will provide several links. I'll send that to Kristen so she can send some of those links for you to check out some of these platforms. But the platforms are out there, and they help you to collect location-based data and also metadata that you can combine and be able to create a database out of the data that you're going to collect, and be able to help and understand what exactly the situation is in that particular project. Whether you're in an education project, whether you're in a health project, you can be able to collect the relevant information and store it with whatever information, because the location is very important. People get to see what exactly these things are happening, what's the trend, and then in terms of analysis and also dissemination, you can create maps, you can create graphs, charts, to be able to show pictorial views of what exactly you're working on and how you're making progress in that particular project or that particular initiative or field as well. So I'll pause now and see if Kristen can moderate the questions. Basically those were the few advice that I have for you all today.
Okay, so if you want to stop sharing your screen, and we'll
Okay, yeah.
Your questions again.
So, stop. Okay.
Thank you for that great review. An excellent description of just the variety of work that mapping and GSI can do in terms of partners, in terms of issue areas that you're working on. So I wanted to start off by touching on the partnerships and how you were training and partnering at the same time. Can you tell us about some of the pros and cons of all your different partners, whether they're businesses or government institutions?
Great. I mean, it was on case-by-case basis in terms of the partnership. I think in the end, or from the start, it's all about building relationships. So we made contacts initially whenever there was a project, and we envisioned that these organizations or these individuals are going to be the relevant partners. So we build relationship with those folks and then bring them on the table and explain to them and make them to feel the value that this platform is going to give to their work or their initiative. And then once you've had that buy-in from that organization or that individual, before even you move to sitting with them on the table in terms of customizing the platform, in terms of sketching out the timeline and actual implementation, and how you help them through the process to tell a story or make sense of the information. But basically, just to add, like we did a work with the Ministry of Gender in Liberia. They wanted to collect information on rape cases in Liberia. So from all 15 counties. So we had to sit with the minister, build a relationship, and then he brought it down to lower level, um, deputy ministers, assistant minister, coordinators, county coordinators, and then we all came together and they were able to, give the unique challenges in those counties that we incorporated those feedback and we were able to build that relationship to develop a full-fledged Ushahidi dashboard platform for them that they could use to collect their information and, continuous support and checking in and make sure that, the client or your partner feel comfortable with using the platform, but not just sitting and developing something and throwing it out to them, but rather supporting them through the process.
So some of those initiatives, like the one where you're reporting on rape cases, are they still continuing to this day? Or what's the institutionalization like? What's the sustainability?
Sure. So most of them, like, the Ushahidi model is really focuses on sustainability. Some of these Ushahidi platforms are more internal to keep the information. So the platform could either be, public or internal. So, for example, we work with the United Nations mission in Liberia. They were collecting data from the, army personnel in all the states, and in all the cities and counties, breaking it into the platform. So, like that type of information, they kept it more internal. And I was in Liberia recently, and we had that interaction with them back in 2012. And I was in Liberia recently for the holidays, and I realized that I visited the Omeo IT section. I realized that they're really utilizing, that collaboration we've had with them from 2012. And even the Ministry of Gender have come back to our lab to develop additional ICT tools to help them be more efficient. So, yeah, most of those partnerships, like I would share some of the public Ushahidi site with you so that the participants can check them out. But really, to answer your question, most of those partnerships that we built continue after even the funding period of Ushahidi as well.
That's great. We have one question from Stephen, and it's a question about funding from the U.S. Do you think that the companies in Silicon Valley have played a big enough role in encouraging sustainable development? And I guess you can speak more to sustainable development in Liberia or in the field of GSI.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Stephen. And I think that is very important. Silicon Valley. Yeah, I would say back in 2012, when the R Lab was kicking off, we got a huge funding from Google Foundation, to further the Ushahidi work and also support the development of the R Lab, which could, bring in kids to train them how to use to get coding skills, for example. So we're teaching basic Python programming to girls in high school, to boys in high school, to university students. So, like for example, specifically, I'll speak to Google Foundation. They were a huge help. They gave us like $250,000, for example, to operate for about 2 years and train more Liberians on how to gain coding skills, for example. So we've had series of interaction with, for example, Georgia Tech University. Georgia Tech usually send an intern who's getting his or her master's degree in computer science every summer to Liberia for about 16 weeks to work with us, to conduct series of, video, graphic, audio, programming and whatever their expertise is to conduct trainings. We've had a series of different partnerships from the university, from UMass, from other universities in the United States as well. So not much from Silicon Valley, but I believe that we keep building partnerships as they come about, and we still open to more partnership to be able to bring more Liberians on board when it comes to ICT, because Liberia is still a virgin country when it comes to the proliferation of ICT, and also ICT education in Liberia as well.
That actually leads into another question about opportunities or internships, maybe even for our interns watching
Yeah.
this. So you mentioned a couple universities, or are there any like websites they could go to look for potential to intern with one of the organizations you've worked at?
Great. So I love Liberia. I mean, it's in Liberia. It's in Monrovia, the capital. I even just created an interaction, and something has come up. This girl called Rachel from Georgetown University that I linked with the ALAB folks a couple of months ago, and she should be she's getting her master's at Georgetown. She should be going to Liberia in the next 2 months to intern at the ALAB for about 2 months to actually work on the SDG Youth Action Mapper, which is one of Creative's initiative that I've been focused on as well. So, and Christine even helped us to put together some of the curriculums for that. So basically, how do you encourage young people to use this mobile technology, which is a mapping application, which is a clone of the Creative Mapper app, to collect relevant information on organizational initiatives in Liberia that are focused, that are related to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and then put that on a public map where we will do a lot of public awareness campaign where young people can go and see those information and then can go and volunteer at those organizations, local organizations, and then in turn we will work with the point of contacts of those organizations to collect relevant information on, how many youth came here during this month, how many hours they contributed, and so forth, and then we put it in a global repository that it can be shared with the global sustainable development data initiative worldwide, so people can actually see from grassroots level, how the youth of Liberia are contributing to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and then also plug that into the Liberian government national agenda to help with their reporting on, grassroots level, how the youth are contributing. So yeah, so definitely I'll be happy to talk to people who are interested in, going to Liberia to intern. Once we can, discuss further and find a possibility, I'm sure Liberians will be happy to receive you. It's a very friendly and really great country. A lot of beaches and yeah.
That sounds great. I guess the last question we'll ask you is more focused on your own academic path, I guess, because our interns are undergrad students. If you have any suggestions on courses that they should take to give them the skills they need to work in this industry, that'd be great.
Sure, let me just tell my story quickly. Maybe that will serve as an inspiration. So I graduated from high school in 2005, but then my thing was, I was very young when I graduated, but my thing was, I was very passionate about technology, but there were no higher institutions of learning offering a degree in computer science or ICT related fields. We've just come back from war. There was nothing there, but there were institutions offering stuff in the social sciences, in business, and so forth. So what I did personally, which might not be the right path, was that between 2005 to 2008, considering, my dad had passed back in 2003, my mom wasn't working. So I decided that, let me acquire some technical skills, that will help me through my university education to be able to support myself in university, because I didn't have any other external support, and it was very expensive to go to a private university. So what I did was between 2005 and 2008, there were a lot of computer science institutions around. They were not university level, but they were offering stuff in networking, programming, and hardware, whatever. So I took a lot of stuff. I went to a 10 months program. I went to a 5 months program and acquired different technical computer science related skills. And then I got a job and started working and then I entered the university, 2008. And then through my university, I was schooling and also working. And then I did some really interesting and great job while in school as well, which was tough. And then, I was able to graduate and went on. I've done a lot of interesting things. I got this Atlas Call Fellowship. I also came to the US. I got an opportunity to come back. I'm going back in July when I'm done. I'm returning to Liberia to contribute. I also got an opportunity from one of the largest GIS companies in the world, to go and do a master's in geographic information system in California at the University of Redlands. So, I mean, it's all just been about, learning a lot on the job. I've had a lot of professional development, opportunities. Google sent me to London for 1 month to go at the Google campus. I've been to Geneva, Switzerland, been to Germany and a lot of other countries, South Africa and so forth, I just been taking advantage of opportunities that come my way and be able to, take full advantage of that, learn as much as you can. If it entails that you find a way to do a low job to get some experience while schooling as well, it's great. But I got a bachelor's in sociology with emphasis in economics. So my thing has been, how do you combine the best of both worlds? How do you use technology for social change? Because with my sociology background, and my technical skills, I can be able to merge the both and, use technology to change the life of people, to help people gain the relevant life skills, and also, support government agenda and nonprofit institutions work and help them to be more efficient and more effective to better serve the communities that they're working.
Great. That's a really inspiring path, and I think it's one that's important to point out that sometimes you need to just look for work opportunities and educational opportunities whichever way you can, and you've certainly done that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think that we'll wrap up for today, but thank you again, Luther, for joining us. That's a really great presentation on some fantastic initiatives, and I wish you luck in the MAPPR project.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and bye-bye to everyone.
Bye.
All right.